What's good, y'all? Solomon here. I hope you're having a good day. Today's video, we're continuing our Czech Pirc Defense series, which in my opinion is one of the most underrated options for black in the entire game. And I think a lot of players could benefit from giving the Czech Pirc a shot. It's very simple and straightforward in terms of what we're trying to get, and we get it, okay, if we know what we're doing. So what are we doing here? Well, in this game by Vladimir Kramnik, okay, we have e4, d6, d4, knight f6, and against knight c3, the key move here, starting off the check, c6. Okay, now before y'all come after me telling me that he's a GM, guys, I know he's a GM now, okay, but when this game was played, he was not. Okay, this was played when he was 15. If you've seen any of the recent videos lately on him accusing Hikaru of cheating, he is not 15 anymore. Okay, so some time has passed since 1990, and here we are. Okay, the move is c6. What does this do? Well, it neutralizes the knight, first off, right? It also helps support potential moves like d5, sometimes d5, usually b5 though, depending on the line or variation. And finally, it helps us activate our queen, gives our queen some options, including a5, which is the best move for black against the 3-pawn center. Okay, if you see this against the check, don't be worried. Play queen a5. This is a very sound position for black. I'm thinking about making a course on the Czech Pirc. Let me know if you'd want me to do that down in the comment section below. But the whole idea here, look, if e5, knight e4, right? If bishop d2, we can capture off that bishop, playing chess. If a move like bishop d3 here, which is what happened in the game, we play the move of e5. And after d takes, Kramnik captures back with the pawn. If takes, we're not going to take back with the queen right away, but instead play knight g4 and look to capture back with our knight, because we don't want to take with the queen right away, right? I mean, our queen's going to get kicked around. But in this game, we have the move of f5. Now let's evaluate this position for a moment. Just some pros and cons. I mean, one good thing for white and not so good for us is that they do have a lot of space on the king side right now. I mean, this f5 pawn is very far advanced. White might try to play a move like g4, which we saw in this game, making space, just trying to crush our king side. On the flip side, white's dark squares are pretty weak, and black can take advantage of those, right? I mean, we're already pinning this knight. This bishop potentially can come to either c5 or b4. And black as well has options of kind of advancing on the queen side. Okay, at the master and grandmaster level, the most popular option here for black is the move of b5. The second most popular option is the move of knight bd7, which is what we see in this game. And okay, I mean, the very next move, black plays b5, fianchettos this bishop. Again, very straightforward. Gain some space, develop our pieces. Bishop d2 is played here. Now, we got to be very careful. Queen a5 is very important because we pin that knight, right? We're helping support e5, all that kind of stuff when we initially play it. But once the bishop comes here, we have to be careful. Okay, we don't always have to move our queen, but this is one of those moments where we do, because let's just say we make a move like a6. White plays knight takes b5, winning a pawn. Our queen's under attack, so we can't take the knight. We can't take the knight with the queen unless we want to lose our queen, which we don't. And if we run away with the queen, the knight runs back. By the way, guys, if you're ever in a position like this with the white pieces, right? If you're ever in any kind of situation, right, where you get a pawn, okay? I feel like a lot of players, they take a pawn and then they go, well, I don't want to go right back. I mean, that's just wasting time. Guys, you got your pawn, okay? Just get your pawn, get out of there. That's fine. That's not a waste of time. It's not going in circles. You won a pawn. Your opponent didn't. And if they do try to win a pawn here, you're going to win that bishop on b7. Okay, so all that to say, if you want a pawn or any material, don't be worried about coming right back, okay? When I'm playing the Hippopotamus Defense, if I have the chance to win a rook or a minor piece with one of my bishops, I'll often take that piece and run right back to where I came from. That's cool. Going back to the game, though, bishop g2, obviously, Kramnik here, a young prodigy, knows that this is a threat, so he drops his queen back to c7. We have g4, and this is an idea that I just want to put on your radar. Whether you've played the Pirc Defense, the Czech Pirc Defense, the Hippopotamus Defense, the modern defense, there's a ton of openings where white has an opportunity to kind of go crazy, right, on the king side. This could be an Austrian attack. This could be a 150 attack. If you don't know all these names I'm throwing at you, I'm sorry. The main point is white just going crazy on the king side. Just be careful, because you don't want your knight to get kicked to g8. Like in a position like this, I mean, if g5 was played right now, if it was white's move again, this knight would have to run back to g8. And how sad is that? I mean, that knight, I mean, why did we even move it? Let's be real, okay? And sure, there's some openings where a move like knight h5 is appropriate. Somewhere it's not. This is definitely not appropriate because the queen literally is defending that square. So my main kind of thing that I want to put on your radar, when your opponent is going crazy like this, okay, I've even seen this with the Grand Prix as white, when black's going crazy on the queen side, you want to give this knight an escape square, a square to escape to where it's actually not just being defensive, but it can actually become active in the game later on. Here in this position, we see the move of knight c5, okay? In a lot of positions, knight b6 is the right move, depending on the opening. But here, knight c5, notice, we get our knight here. And by doing so, our knight has an escape square, okay? Remember that this knight can move into a more active spot, and if g5 is played, we're good, right? All of a sudden, this knight has possibilities to fill into c5 if this knight leaves. This knight has opportunities to come to b6 and start eyeing up key light squares like c4 or a4, okay? By white pushing these pawns, they're really just getting our knights over into a more active queenside spot, which is where our attention is going to be anyways, okay? But all that to say, after the move of knight c5, white does not play the move of g5, which actually would have been a pretty good move. Instead, we have the move of a4, which is a mistake. This allows us to play b4. The knight runs back. Here, a stunning tactic from Kramnik with knight c takes e4, just snatching off a pawn. Now, in the game, white takes the knight. But let's just answer the question. What if g5? It might seem here like, oh gosh, our knight's attacked. The pawn's defended. If we move this knight, we're going to lose that one. We're in trouble. That's almost true. But here, there's a few options, the best of which being knight takes d2. We're threatening this queen. We're not just taking a piece, we're threatening the queen. So you can't really make an intermediate move because we take your queen with check. That's not good for white. So king takes e2 is more or less forced. And once that happens, c5. Attacking that queen, right? That's a move there. e4 here also works. I kind of like c5 personally. If a check, now we drop our knight back, right? We have that escape square. The queen is still under fire. And if a move like queen f1 here, just keep in mind, just because you can take material, even though it usually is good, like 90+% of the time, it's not always the right choice to take material, okay? Like in this case, we're already up. We're already up, guys. We're already up one pawn of material, so keep that in mind. By taking this rook, you know, white gets an active queen. Okay, a very active queen, actually. And, you know, I get it. I mean, some might wonder what's the big deal. You know, after a move like rook d8, for example, we could castle. I personally don't like that, but, you know, rook d8 here is a move that works. And black is better here. But when you look at the engine, you know, this can be a hard position for black to play with the king in the center, the knight's pinned, the queen's very active. If we even do castle, white has these pawns that are already very far advanced. All that to say, a lot can go wrong here. This is a very sharp position. So I think a safer way to play this, right? And I'm all about safe wins. If I can have a safe win, I'm taking that any day of the week over a complicated, crazy win. Let's just play a 6. Kick that bishop around. I mean, if you want to take, that's great. We take with check against your king. Our rook can fill in. You know, I mean, if the bishop goes to c4, let's continue to activate that minor piece and put some pressure on your minor bishop. And if bishop d3, c4, your bishop's trapped. We're going to win a piece here. Bishop e4, we take it. If you take on c4, thanks for the bishop. If you don't move your bishop, thanks for the bishop. Crushing for black. Okay, so all that to say, g5, it just doesn't work because we take on d2 when we're threatening the queen. So here white decides to play the move of bishop takes e4. In that case, we take. And kind of an interesting position here. I mean, if white doesn't take the knight, first off, they're down upon a material. Second off, a move like knight takes d2 could happen. If the bishop moves, a move like c5 could take place. Oof, I mean, this is just not pretty. This is not pretty for white. So after the move of knight takes e4, white actually takes the knight and gives up their rook. We're now up 3 points in material, y'all. Okay, we're up the exchange, and on top of that, we're up a pawn. White here takes on b4, though, so the pawn advantage goes away. We're only up the exchange now. Notice taking this bishop would be a really bad idea, so we do not see that in the game. Instead, we have bishop e7 and this king castling kingside fast, just getting safe. Okay, g5. I mean, this bishop's doing a great job, and this is often what happens in the Czech Pircs. The bishop on e7 might not seem very active. It might not seem strong or like it's doing that much, but it's really the glue that's holding the Czech Pircs together. Chess is not all about getting all attacking pieces. You need somewhat of a defensive presence as well, oftentimes. Okay. Castling queenside is played, bishop f3. Beautiful move, pinning that knight to the rook. Knight d5 is played. There's so many moves here that are good. I mean, check. I would probably take here. I'm huge on trading down one-up material. Queen b7 works, which is, by the way, what we saw in the game. f6 is played. We have the little move of bishop takes d5. Again, so many moves here that work. Bishop takes f6 is winning for black. G takes f6 is winning. At this point, it's kind of like, how do you want to win? Bishop takes d5 is played, though. And after queen takes, we take with the queen. That's not going to work, right? Because our queen's going to run loose. So, you know, when you see a queen like that, you got to take it unless it's with check or with some crazy intermediate move. This example is not one of those. In the game, G takes f6 was played by Kramnik. I actually am not the biggest fan of that move. I think that bishop takes f6 is just cleaner because our pawn structure is just a lot better, right? I mean, when we take with the G pawn, doubled pawns now, backwards pawn, f5 could be a square for the knight potentially. Obviously, black's still much better here, but it just doesn't feel as clean. You know, maybe Kramnik was concerned about, you know, the fact that if we take with the bishop, maybe it's a little bit less imbalanced. If a move like rook d8, white can take, and if rook takes, they can snatch off a pawn. If they do, though, rook a8, I would personally just snatch off this guy. The computer wants h5. Who would play h5? Well, Kramnik did in the game, as you'll see in a different position. I would probably just take the pawn personally and threaten that one, but we're up the exchange here. Okay, we're up the exchange. I mean, there's not much to complain about, right? But we all have our preferences. Let me know down in the comment section below. Do you like the move of G takes or bishop takes f6 more? Okay, Kramnik played G takes f6. The computer line is bishop takes f6, but at the end of the day, computers are great, but they're a tool. Okay, they're a tool, and what matters more is not what's right by 0.3 or 0.02. What matters is what you like to play. If you like your position, you're going to play better than in an opening, a variation, a line, any kind of opening situation. Let me fix my mic here real quick, where you're not comfortable. Okay, so that kind of covers that, and that's my opinion on it. Okay, that's my opinion. I've played the right opening before. Back in the day, I had a different playing style than I do now. I was trying the Czech Defense because I knew it was a very strong opening, and I got blasted by it. I hated the lines. I hated the variations. I don't mind it now because I've actually made some tweaks to it. But yeah, don't play what you're supposed to, guys. Play what you like. You're going to play better. Hey, guys, I really quickly wanted to tell you about something that we've been working on for over a year. I have partnered with Coastline Creative, and we have come out with some exclusive Chess Giant merch. Okay, we got t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags, and more. And if you're interested in getting 10% off, all you got to do is go to my website, okay, and on there you'll get invited to join my email list. Join my email list, and I will send you the discount code there. On top of that, if you want to get 20% instead of 10%, all you got to do is become a supporter on my Patreon. Become a patron, and you will get 20% off of all Chess Giant merch in the future. Okay, I hope you guys like the designs. Let me know what you think of them down in the comment section below. Let me know any ideas that you have for future, you know, clothing ideas, design ideas, and all that kind of good stuff that we can put on the site. And yeah, let's get back to the video. Okay, G takes f6 is played. Bishop takes c5, rook f d8. Nice idea, right? I mean, if you take the rook, if you take the bishop, we get your rook. That's great. So rook takes d8 is played. Obviously here, we got to take with the bishop so it doesn't get captured now. b4 is played, h5. Beautiful move from black. The idea here is that if white takes, our pawns can just start running. I mean, this pawn on f5 is free to go, and it doesn't take much for these pawns to get to the other side, especially against the knight. Okay, knights are horrible at defending past pawns. Bishops are great, knights are horrible. If a move like knight g3, f4. And I love knights, but this is a weakness about knights. I'm just being real. Let's say we kick that knight. The knight goes to f5. By the way, if it goes to e4, at some point, f5 could happen. Okay? If f5, let's offer a trade. If you decline the trade, f3. All of a sudden, we're looking at these two squares. I mean, it just doesn't take long for our pawns to become a huge threat in terms of promotion. So After h5, white plays the move of h3. In this case, we take king g7. I mean, this king is going on a mission to take that pawn, just like it would have if this happened at some point. Knight g3, bishop b6, offering a trade. When we're up in material, we got to trade down. And following bishop b7, we see king g6, bishop f2 attacking that knight, and king g5 going after that g4 pawn. White plays this move of knight d6. We snatch off the pawn. c5 is played, king f3. Notice the difference in activity between these two kings. Okay, in the opening, we obviously, what I tell the kids at elementary schools at a visit, is I ask them a question, really: do you want to throw your king into the deep dark forest when the game starts? They say no, right? In the end game, though, we're not worried about getting checkmated. We're not worrying about getting checkmated right now. We're not worried about all these major pieces flying around. We need our king to help guide this pawn's way. We want our king to lead our pawns in a lot of situations, not the other way around. Now, of course, if you have a passed pawn, book it. But if you're like in a king and pawn endgame, you usually want your king to lead your pawn instead of the other way around. Okay. Now, c6 is played. Kramnik here, just continues to push. c7, and now bishop d4. I think a lot of players here as black, including myself, would probably just look at e3 right away. That just seems like the obvious move. We're 2 moves away. Here's the issue with e3, though. White can capture on f6 and play bishop c3. This is still winning. But now we're in a situation where if we promote to a queen here, this is actually not great for us. White does the same thing. We take a pawn. They take a pawn. This is going to be a draw. This is going to be a draw. All white has to do is take this pawn. All we have to do is take this pawn, and it's going to be insufficient material, right? Because let's just say everything highlighted in red is off the board. It is impossible for white to win that, even if black tries to lose. So that's not good. Okay, and that's just an endgame idea. Sometimes that's great. Giving up a pawn, you get the piece. But in this kind of position where white is so close to the edge, we got to kind of stick to our guns and not be okay with this pawn getting traded off for a piece. We need this to become a clean promotion, turn into a queen, and win this thing. So what can we do here? A move like bishop d4 is great. If you want to take, we promote. If you want to play bishop d2, we pin your bishop, capture it, king f2, and we start to look at e1 ideas. Okay, let's just look at that real quick. So, here we could play bishop e3, take. Okay, in this case, king f2 is a mistake because of knight e4 check. Generally speaking, that would be a good idea. So here, what do? f5. f5, right? f5 is the correct move there. Now we are threatening this. You could promote all you want. It doesn't really matter. We're going to make a queen. You don't have one. You did have one for half a second, but then we took it. Okay, so we go back, okay, to this bishop d4 move. So white can't take, white can't go there. If white defends the bishop, that's even easier for us. If a move like bishop e1, let's get after that bishop. Let's play king g2, king f1. If you make a queen, that's fine, right? We play bishop f2. We're looking to capture this bishop. This pawn is going to promote in a clean fashion. And even if you take, white right now is up a piece for a pawn, but it doesn't matter because we're about to promote. Okay, so there's going to be situations in chess where, if they sack a piece, that's fine. There's going to be other situations, especially when their pawns are close to promotion as well, where we need to find a way to make a clean promotion if we want to find the win. Going back to the game, instead of pushing this pawn, which allows this maneuver from white, stopping that promotion in a clean way, at least at the start, Kramnik just plays bishop d4 and stops that bishop from taking. White here could have pushed. They could have done that, but e3 is played. This is going to be hard to stop. King d1 doesn't really solve the issue. Okay. b5, this bishop trying to get in. Let's not let that bishop in. Bishop c3. Okay. Bishop c5 is pointless now. If the king attacks our bishop, that's fine. We're just going to promote. We're winning. Okay. So going back, instead of promotion, we see that move of knight b5. Bishop e5 is played. Bishop d6. Black just starts to push. Okay. And once the dust settles, we have this move of king f2. f5 is actually the computer move there. right? The whole idea being if takes, you know, we're able to push, and that's just a winning position for black. King F2 is played. Here white resigns. Again, you can make a queen, but we're going to take it. E2, this pawn is unstoppable. And let's say white tries to stop these pawns. Again, pawns are, you know, knights are terrible at stopping pawns. And we have 3 of them that are passed, and our king is leading the way. We play a move like King F1. We're still looking at this. If knight G3, now we maneuver our king a little bit. We don't want to just keep going back and forth where we're going to get checked all day. Maneuver that king over. Right? I mean, if a move like knight e2, boom, we go there. The knight can't go back to g3. If knight e4, f5, continuing to push pawns. The engine likes rook c8 and f5. I personally like f5 there. And after knight c3, I also like f4. I mean, well, why not, guys? Why not just push these pawns? We got to win. Beautiful game by Kramnik. To go back to the chess opening theory portion of this game, again, when you see f4 with that 3-pawn center, you got to play queen a5. Memorize that. Memorize e5 and knight e4, and memorize against bishop d3 that you're going to play e5. And in this game, after takes, we have the move of f5. And black here just does a great job of developing their pieces, right? Developing, getting that queen out when they needed to. And it turns out that white had a strong center, but black played hyper-dynamic chess, went after that center, and here found a great tactic with knight c takes e4, around us -2 for black, and another great Czech Pirc Defense win for the books. Hey, thanks for watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon community for the month of May in 2024. I appreciate y'all a ton, and yeah, I mean, if you haven't thought about becoming a Patreon supporter for this channel before, I highly recommend that you go and check out some of the benefits that you gain by becoming a member, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.